新加坡神之心教会由陈少豪、曾秀平牧师于1999年创立，从5人小组就积极向青少年传福音，且牧养培育7代的年轻人领袖，不是一代取代另一代，而是 GenerationS-累代世代同行，成为建造教会的根基。虽然疫情严峻，但教会联合聚会还有5000人参与，且会有平均年龄23岁，80%在教会侍奉。目前教会更由5位主任牧师共同领导，培育青少年，不只成为明日的领袖，更是成为今日的教会领袖。
We have a young person. This was many years back. So he's 9 years old. His name is Wei Zhe, and he came to us. He said God spoke to him that he must play drums. He should play the drums. But in those days, we don't have money. We cannot afford a smaller drum set. The bigger drum set, he's so short, his legs cannot reach it. So we didn't say, okay, wait till you grow up, wait till you grow taller. We say, no, if a young person want to serve God now, they have to serve God now. So we challenge him to play the bass instead. So he started playing the bass guitar at 9 years old. But then in just a few years, he was playing in the main service, the big service, not children's church, the big service. And up to today, I think he's like 24, 25 years old. He's still playing bass. He is a worship team leader. He is a connect group leader. So you see, when you involve them, they will be in the ministry. They'll be serving. And the important thing is this. We need to give our young people a vision before the world captivates them.
So the young people will come, not because church is where, but it's got who, it's got all the people they know inside in that church. So it's very interesting. We have this set of siblings, they are Singaporeans, but they live in Malaysia. And they have called Heart of God Church their home. And so what they would do is that every Sunday they would travel from Malaysia all the way to Singapore to our church. And that journey alone takes like 2.5, 3 hours. And if it's really traffic jam, a lot of cars, they would take like 4 hours just to come to Heart of God Church service. And 4 hours, 4.5, we can fly between Singapore and Taiwan. It's a really long journey. But they kept coming every week, and they have never been late. And if they had to serve in church, which they did, one is an usher and one is serving in the sound ministry, they have to report at 8 o'clock because they want to be there to serve God on time. And in order to reach at 8, they'd have to wake up at 4 a.m. just to make their way across the causeway to come to Singapore to Heart of God Church to serve. And that is incredible because that just shows that young people want a home. Because it's not about where the church is. It can be very far, but they are coming because there are relationships there. And there is a worship with God, and there's a relationship with God, and there's a relationship with other people. So that's how we have kept them coming back after the pandemic, because there are relationships and they know that there's a buzz in the connect group and it's the people. Church, if you build it like a home, the young people will keep coming back.
How we raise them up is that what we call invite, include, and involve. But unfortunately, a lot of times we try to impress the young people. Impressing the young people doesn't work. I mean, you can never outdo Hollywood. You can never outdo K-pop, so we cannot compete. So don't try to impress young people, but really invite, include, involve. Inviting them means it's very simple. It's not rocket science. Inviting them into ministry. Tell them, we need you, we want you, and you have the opportunity and you have the ability to serve. So you invite them and then you include them and then you involve them into the ministry. And so in our church, you have 9 years old on photography. You have 13 years old, they are serving on usher. So they are involved in the church.
We want to give the young people a voice. We want to give them a seat at the table. We want to give them a vote. So what my husband and I always end up doing is always asking them questions instead. What is your dream? What do you want to do for Jesus? What do you dream for your career? So we ask them all these questions. If we could just invite them to talk a little bit more, that's the family of what we envisage the church to be, a home where the young people can express themselves, talk about themselves. So the discipleship group is not so much of like discipleship telling you how to do your life, but it's more of listening to them, telling them, asking them questions and what they want to see happen in their lives. And when we can build that kind of relationship where the top person, even the pastors that we have in church, they still have their own discipleship groups. You just meet different levels of people, different tier of people. So if everybody can relate to the young people in that manner, where there are leaders who care about them, who really ask them questions, that's where we build that sense of family. Where we always say this, we don't use the people to build the church, but we use the church to build people. That is very important. So the people really matter, and they will come away feeling that they matter to the senior leaders. They're not too far away. I cannot talk to them, I cannot say hi to them. And that sense of, hey, they are accessible is very important. That's the feeling of home, and that's the feeling of family. And in our church, it's very funny. After service, nobody wants to go home. So it's like, it's about like 9, 10 o'clock, and all the leaders have to walk around and say, hey, you go home, it's 10 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock. But they would say, no, we're not going home. Say, you gotta go home. And they would turn to us and say, Pastor, this is our home.
But for us, 5 senior pastors, 2 of them is my wife and I of the older generation. 3 of them are in their 30s, so they are the younger generation. So together we are a team. And so the older generation, they are very happy because I'm still around. And I can bring the experience. I can bring the connections. I can bring a lot to the table. But yet the younger 3 senior pastors, they will be relevant to the younger people. So for us, it's about representation. And instead of thinking representation like in the world where you talk about ethnic group or interest group, for us, the representation is for generations.
God has given me a live verse, and my live verse is found in Isaiah 58, verse 12. A long time ago, God spoke to me and said, you will raise the foundations of many generations. So in Heart of God Church, we've been building generations and generations of leaders. And, right now we have built 7 generations of young leaders already. And between each generation, it is just 3 to 5 years apart. It is not like a 40-year-old and the next generation is 20 years old. But those 7 generations, between each generation is about 3 to 5 years apart. Because every time one generation grows up, we go back down to reach another youth group. Then, and that they grow up again, we go down again and start another youth group for the 13 and 16-year-olds, So that's how we have been building generations. And one very key concept of building a strong church for us and getting all the young people to be strong is that we've always believed that generations are not replacements, but they are reinforcements.
So I think the power of having 3 generations of senior pastors will be amazing. Again, they are relevant and they represent every generation. And so that is our goal. So the first task for the new generation of senior pastor is to reproduce and disciple another generation of senior pastor. And because we think like that, our mindset is like that, immediately they are thinking, because if they are in their 30s, the next senior pastors must about 20 years apart. So they are 15, they are 14. So when you go to the youth group and you see a young man, a young woman, 14, 15 years old, you see them as this potentially could be a future senior pastor. And when you look at them like that, with that kind of potential and destiny, it is game-changing. I mean, the whole mindset shift. We begin to love, encourage, believe, and disciple them to the potential that one day you become a senior pastor.
We want to build a deep bench in Heart of God Church and many, many, many layers and different levels of leaders all together serving God at the same time. So this is what we did. We built a deep bench. We kept growing the preaching team. We kept growing the ops team. We kept training. And we have this thing called a school of worship in our church where we train kids who do not know how to play a musical instrument from scratch. And then they will play and then they will learn and they will serve on the worship team. So even though we couldn't meet in person, we kept the training going on. So the classes moved online. The trainers were amazing. They just kept teaching them, online, Zooming them, and they even set up playlists for the youths to listen to different kinds of music and how to learn to play different songs. So the school of worship kept going on. The young people kept training because we thought to ourselves, we are not going to waste this crisis. No matter what happens, the church can still carry on to train its people.
I think the most important thing is that the senior pastor, the top leadership, must buy in, must change the mindset and have a vision for young people. So we have realized that just the youth group reaching out to young people is not enough. The youth group cannot do it alone. So in the past, it used to be the youth will reach the youth. But now we realize it is not enough. The whole church needs to be mobilized. And that's why we need the buy-in from the senior pastor. And when the senior pastor, the elders, the board begin to support it with all the resources and getting the whole church, even the old people, to reach young people. We call it mobilizing the whole church. I think that is the important ingredient in reaching the young people. So for us, we would encourage the grandparents to bring grandchildren. If you cannot reach out to your colleague because they are older, they're busy, they will not come to church, then you reach out to their children. And they are very happy to let the children come to church because it's like free babysitting for them. So yeah, mobilize the whole church.